Thousands of unqualified pilots get licensed to fly every year, and some have made fatal errors within weeks of passing their pilot's test. I'm Nancy Glass in Phoenix, Arizona, and this is American Journal.
One pilot can cause a catastrophe in the aviation system.
There is danger in the skies, and American Journal is asking, are unqualified pilots getting licenses, putting lives at risk?
We want to know if you ever think about the pilots who have crashed and died after you gave them their licenses.
Today, examiners, some say, are giving pilots their wings when they shouldn't, turning airplanes into flying death traps. Before the fame, before the top 10, there was David Letterman, game show contestant.
I'll bet 20 on David.
Why? Why do you believe David Letterman, Charlie?
American Journal digs deep and uncovers the David Letterman you've never seen.
Boy, oh boy, America, have we got a show for you.
They are the mighty queens of the network news, fighting each other for the big exclusives. But this time, Diane let Barbara have one she just wasn't expecting.
You made me greedy. I couldn't bear that you net 3 million more than I get. I'm Nancy Glass. Welcome to American Journal. We are in Papago Park right now. It looks like we're in the middle of the desert. Actually, we're just a few miles from downtown Phoenix, Arizona, and we're here for a disturbing investigation into how unqualified pilots still manage to get licenses to fly. And we have long-lost video of David Letterman when he was struggling to make it in TV. Wait till you see this. First, when you board a plane, you assume that the pilot would not be allowed to fly unless he was an experienced and highly qualified professional. But our investigation shows that isn't always the case. Some pilots are inadequately trained and tested, yet they still get licenses. As Mark Sauter reports, a number of crashes and deaths have been linked to one examiner right here in Phoenix.
A twin-engine Beechcraft slams into the woods outside a North Carolina airport, taking 2 lives. An airliner crashes in the Denver snow, claiming 28 victims. A single-engine plane falls from the sky in Arizona, wiping out an entire family. All these crashes have 2 things in common. They were caused, at least in part, by pilot error, and the pilots involved had been licensed by private examiners who gave flight tests for profit and had reputations for being easy. Critics say it's evidence the FAA system for licensing pilots is broken, allowing unqualified aviators to kill themselves and others. And large numbers of unfit pilots are entering the sky every year, according to Jim Burnett, former head of the National Transportation Safety Board.
We may be having conservatively, I'd say, 1,000 to 4,500 coming into the system that are substandard a year. One pilot can cause a catastrophe.
Take the case of the Bergquist family. Kurt, his wife Sally, and their son Brad shared a belief in God and family.
Sally said if anything ever happens to them, they hope they all go together because they couldn't live without each other. And they were that kind of family.
Sally's sister, Susan, says the family also shared a love for flying. Sally wrote about their hobby in her diary.
And on 6/20, she's got in here, praise the Lord, Kurt passed flight test, licensed pilot, effective 6/19/86.
Just 2 months later, in August 1986, the family loaded up their small plane and took off from Phoenix on vacation.
They were on liftoff, and apparently he was headed for a mountain or a small hill and couldn't get the plane up.
The Bergquist family, so close in life, died together on the desert floor of Arizona. According to investigators, the crash involved pilot error. Kurt Bergquist initiated flight with an overloaded aircraft. When it stalled, he was unable to recover. His relatives wonder why Bergquist made those basic mistakes just weeks after getting his pilot's license. Was it solely his own fault, or had Kurt Bergquist been given a license before he was ready to fly? This is the man who gave Bergquist his license, Phoenix pilot examiner Maynard Abrams. He refused to speak with us, but top FAA official Tony Broderick defends Abrams.
He is a good examiner. He is one that the FAA stands behind.
But that's not what the FAA was saying about Abrams during the 1980s. In 1986, the agency reported that he violated regulations and almost never failed his pilots. More importantly, the FAA learned that 3 of Abrams' pilots had crashed within a month after he gave them licenses. The government decided Abrams' performance was unsatisfactory and yanked his power to test pilots. But then Abrams got a lawyer, and the FAA backed down, once again allowing him to license hundreds of pilots a year. It was 1989 when Maynard Abrams gave an exam to this man, Jeffrey Weinshank. Weinshank says he was so nervous during his test, he failed to perform properly 2 maneuvers.
After my flight, I thought I was very unsure whether I had passed or failed because of the 2 maneuvers that I wasn't able to complete successfully the first time. But Mr. Abrams said that that I did pass, and he went ahead and passed me.
Were you kind of surprised you had just failed the stall maneuver and one of the landing maneuvers?
Well, yeah, I guess I could say that I was a little surprised.
Weeks after he got his license, Weinshank had an accident. Investigators say it involved pilot error. More recently, an FAA official found problems in the paperwork of aviators tested by Abrams. But Abrams is still at work, passing more than 90% of his pilots. And now the FAA defends him.
He has an awful lot of experience in being able to separate students who understand what they're doing and will make good pilots from students who just don't understand how to fly an airplane.
We decided to check that claim. We spent months obtaining documents related to Abrams pilots. Because of FAA resistance, our search was limited, but still we found 22 aviators who got licenses from Abrams and then crashed due at least in part to pilot error. Some went down just weeks after passing exams given by Abrams. In all, those crashes killed 16 people, including victims on the ground. After one accident, an FAA official suggested Abrams never should have given the pilot a license in the first place.
We want to know if you ever think about the pilots who have crashed and died after you gave them their licenses.
In the past, Abrams has flatly denied giving improper tests and said he was not responsible for any accidents, including the Bergquist crash. He noted that since he's given over 4,000 flight tests, it's not surprising some of his pilots have crashed. Because the FAA doesn't keep track, there's no way to tell if Abrams is linked to more crashes than other examiners, but his case raises doubts about how the FAA licenses pilots. In America, pilots are almost never tested by the government. Instead, they get their licenses from civilian examiners approved by the FAA. Private examiners like Maynard Abrams charge up to $300 a test and can earn a living up to $50,000 a year just by giving exams to other pilots.
Well, in my opinion, some of them are out for an easy buck.
This flight instructor, who asked us to hide his identity, says the system actually encourages for-profit pilot examiners to give pushover tests.
They give an easy check ride, less work for them. Another reason they might give an easy check ride is reputation. The easier you are, some people might think, I want to go to that person, so they get more business.
Coy Gamage, a former combat pilot, had a reputation as a strict examiner. He had to leave the business.
If you give a difficult check ride, people don't like difficulties. They like to go where things are easy.
Aviation experts and even FAA inspectors across the country told us pilots routinely shop around for easy tests. Some flight schools even advertise guaranteed licenses. But the FAA says it does not know of a single bad pilot examiner among the 1,500 across America.
You've got to remember that these people have personal pride, professional pride. In some cases, their livelihood is in part gained from giving these tests.
And critics say that's just the problem, that they make their money in proportion to how easy they are.
And they won't make any money if they lose their FAA designation.
Which almost never happens.
Well, it never happens because we have a good system and we are carefully checking these people continually.
But this crash shows FAA checking can fail. It turned out the pilot of this plane got his license from an easy examiner who had also been selling licenses and getting away with it for years. Other examiners have been caught falsifying records and passing unqualified pilots. Both congressional investigators and the National Transportation Safety Board found major problems in the FAA system.
The policy change that needs to be made is for pilots not to be able to shop for their designated pilot examiner. And I'm very doubtful that the FAA is going to change that unless there's some catastrophe that makes it difficult for them not to.
Burnett says the FAA should randomly assign pilots to examiners so they can't shop around for easy tests and avoid tough ones. But the FAA contends such a system would be ineffective and inconvenient. Sally Berquist's sister says that claim doesn't fly. She's got some hard questions for the FAA.
Are you really testing these people to the maximum to find out if they are capable and qualified to do what they're supposed to be when they get this license? Money should not be the object when people's lives are involved.
And experts told us that problem may get worse. Commercial airlines used to recruit most of their pilots from the military, where training is rigorous, but now they draw many of their pilots from the private sector. When we come back to Phoenix, the real-life top 10 list. Jobs David Letterman used to have before he made it. Jobs like this one.
This is a bread stamp, kids, and you want to mark the bread. You stamp it with this stamp, much like sewing your name in your shorts, and you just...
Today, David Letterman is the undisputed king of late-night television, but he had a long and sometimes difficult road to the top. He was a supermarket bag packer, a TV weatherman, and a game show panelist. Well, we found some lost video of David Letterman when success seemed as far away as Madonna's next appearance on The Late Show. Here's Elisa White.
He always had a small gap between his teeth. His ears stuck out if he got a real good haircut.
He'd wear blue jean cutoffs and a T-shirt, sports car cap, and a beard that was maybe 6 inches long.
These people are all talking about David Letterman. But here's the David Letterman incarnation you haven't seen since 1978.
Shall we?
Petrified Petrie. This rare footage shows David Letterman before he became famous. In the early days of his career, he was happy to make any appearance on television, including a guest spot on a game show. And far from getting star treatment, he was lucky if the host got his name right.
I'll bet 20 on David.
Why? Why do you believe David Letterman, Carly?
The years of struggle for David Letterman have brought him a long way from Broad Ripple, Indiana. He grew up in this small but well-kept house and went to the local elementary school down the road, School 55. Dave's wild sense of humor didn't take long to surface. Childhood friend Fred Stark.
He would gather a bunch of us together and say, okay, now we're going to do a skit today. We're going to do Winnie the Pooh. And you're going to be Tigger, and you're going to be Eeyore, and this is what you're going to say. And none of us had any idea what he was talking about.
When it came time to go to college, Dave decided to attend Ball State University in Muncie. He was a broadcast major. One of his first gigs was on the staid campus radio station. It didn't last long.
There was a lady who we always made fun of. Her name was Ruth Mosey McFadden, and she wrote for the Muncie Evening Press, which Dave said was a wrestling hold that she had invented. He did that a few times too many, and some people came in and said, get that yahoo off the air.
But college friend Ron Pearson said Dave held no grudges against his alma mater, and when Dave became a multimillionaire, he actually created a scholarship fund at Ball State in his name, although with one rather odd stipulation. Eligible students had to have a C grade. Letterman's big break in television came not as an actor, a comic, or a talk show host, but as a weatherman for a local TV station. The folks in Indianapolis had never seen anything like it.
He'd do things like, say, you know, and we've got a report up here in northern Indiana. We've got hail the size of canned hams.
If you think Dave Letterman as a weatherman is odd, consider this. Dave as a host of a goofy kid show, something called Clover Power.
Boy, oh boy, America, have we got a show for you. In fact,
they'd bring in these 4-H kids, and Dave would ask them questions, and they had no idea what he was saying and the fodder he was making of them. It really was a riot.
But then came a better fit, the hosting job of an outrageous late-night movie show, Freeze-Dried Movies. Fraternity brother Tom Lay.
I mean, the movies were terrible. You only tuned in to see Dave.
He finally decided, I can't keep doing this. This is making me nuts.
A little-known fact about Letterman is that he got married when he was still a college senior to Michelle Cook, an attractive 6-foot-tall music major.
Dave said, hey, we're going to pack up the pickup truck and throw the dogs and stuff in the back, and I'm going to go out west, and I'm going to try to write some comedy. And Michelle's supporting this thought.
Once in L.A., Dave struggled as a stand-up comic.
How to lose weight without diet or exercise. Pretty much leaves disease, doesn't it, you know?
Then, in 1978, Dave joined the supporting cast on Mary Tyler Moore's variety show, which was off the air after 3 weeks.
Cornflakes.
Oh.
The worst job for him would be dressing up like some sort of vegetable and singing and dancing in that ill-fated Mary Tyler Moore thing he was in for a brief period of time. But every once in a while, we all have to do a few things that we don't want to do to try to take the career up another rung.
But another disappointment the same year hit Letterman even harder. His marriage to his college sweetheart, Michelle, floundered. They divorced.
Dave just said, you know, it was one of those things where the marriage sort of ran out of steam, and maybe in hindsight they got married a little too early, and people change.
But Dave pressed on with his comedy. He'd do anything for airtime.
When my cousin Herb died, my mother used one of these because we thought perhaps Herb was the one who was stealing the garden tools. And
Dave's crew break came with an appearance on The Tonight Show. He and Johnny Carson clicked, and Carson did everything he could to promote Dave's career. Now, with the enormous popularity of The Late Show with David Letterman, Dave has made broadcasting history. But he may owe his success to those formative days in Indiana.
Scotland Yard, which is, of course, 3 feet 6 inches.
And David Letterman said he's been surprised by the success of the show. He told USA Today he expected to be third behind Jay Leno and Nightline. He said being #1 is like opening a restaurant, having people show up and finding out you haven't poisoned anyone. When we come back to Phoenix, Arizona, Diane Sawyer's musical tribute to arch rival Barbara Walters.
You made me ruthless. I didn't want to do it. Ambition drove me to it.
Wednesday, Susan died because her 911 call couldn't save her in time. Now, American Journal shows you where it takes too long to get emergency help. Heavyweights from news, entertainment, and politics gathered at the Friars Club in New York over the weekend to pay tribute to Barbara Walters. Now, the highlight of the evening was the moment when her alleged arch rival at ABC, Diane Sawyer, got up to sing. It was You Made Me Love You with Diane Sawyer's own words.
This is really dedicated to you. You made me ruthless. I didn't want to do it. Ambition drove me to it. You made me greedy. I couldn't bear that you net 3 million more than I get. Your tiny skirts with those legs on display started me thinking Lorena Bobbitt's way. I'm so embarrassed. Desperate to beat you, I thought I'd do what you do. I slept with Rune and you, too. Scheming for interviews where they schmooze and then end in boo-hoo-hoo. Give me more airtime. It's the air I breathe. I need to tell my story. You know, all about Eve. I you. Hoping to be more like you.
And Hugh Downs joked at the dinner that 2020 once narrowly avoided a libel suit for $2 billion. He said it would have taken Barbara Walters 3 weeks to pay it off. More for you on American Journal when we come back. Binge eating is a dangerous disorder that controls the lives of millions of Americans. We'll show you how to stop it on the next American Journal. Here's a preview.
Millions do it all day long. They can't stop eating.
I will just eat from morning till night.
Is there a way to put an end to the binging? American Journal shows you.
Because this isn't a diet. This is about changing my life.
How to take control of a food obsession.
That's next time, and that's all for today. From Phoenix, Arizona, I'm Nancy Glass. Please join us again for another American Journal.
Be sure to join Charlie Gibson and Joan London for the nation's news, weather, and entertainment. That's Good Morning America, tomorrow morning at 7 on WHTM.